Chip Kelly and the Bruins are making some moves on the recruiting trails for the class of 24. They've got to commit, and they've sent out another offer. Let's talk about it on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, alongside Max Kelton. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcasts, and it's available on YouTube. So like, comment, and subscribe over there. Download wherever you get your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. You can make every moment more by visiting FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Well, as we teased in the open, Max, UCLA has got to commit from the class of 24, an offensive lineman, and they're throwing out more offers to more quarterbacks, according to the Bruin Report Online. But first, we're going to start with an offensive lineman in Mark Schroller, a legacy Bruin, as he's been dubbed, legacy Bruin. And he talked with Greg Biggins from 24/7 Sports and felt UCLA is home. It's always been a dream school. He didn't want to commit right away, but he knew he still really wanted to go to UCLA. He's excited to be a Bruin. His dad played for UCLA in the 90s, and he's a three-star offensive lineman, big body. I believe he's 6'6", and coming in his profile, let's take one more look here, Max. 6'6", 270 at this moment from Mission Viejo.
Yeah, he's got an 83-inch wingspan too, and he can cover ground well. He's got really good feet, and he's a true tackle prospect. I think that's what they like most in him. I mean, you always need that protection for a good backfield, and Schroller is this guy who can come in and almost immediately make an impact. So that's something that I really like about this pickup from Chip Kelly. But we'll wait another year and see how he plays in his senior season. You know, I expect him to take another step forward in his last year of high school, and then moving on to that UCLA offense. I think that Schroller's going to be a really good addition, and I'm excited for it. You know, anytime you can get a true tackle who can make his way to the second level, like the way that Schroller is supposed to be able to do, I think he's really exciting.
Yeah, he was actually offered by UCLA officially April 15th, just 9 days ago from the recording of this podcast. And Auburn came in, threw in an offer. Stanford did the same. Texas A&M tried to write a check. That's a joke. But they threw an offer out there. And this was all within the last week. He started stacking up offers. And funny enough, how he was talking to Greg Biggins in his post-commit interview, he wasn't going to commit this early. Wanted to see what was out there. But as you can see, UCLA moving to the Big Ten, the emphasis is you've got to have a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of big bodies. It's going to get cold, and you have to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage, and that is an emphasis for Chip Kelly. He's making that so, and that has to be an emphasis for him going forward.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, this kid just has, I think he has that instinct to protect, and that's what makes him special. You know, he's a young kid with tremendous size, tremendous ability. He moves laterally really, really well, and you know, I think that's what folks are looking for when it comes to the next generation of linemen. It's how quick they can move, and this is a guy who can again get to the second level really well. A terrific run blocker. He's got great strength. He's a great addition.
Yeah, UCLA, they've been throwing out offers left and right in the class of 24, and they've been able to have guys who are interested. They've got a couple commits. I believe, I forgot if it was, but there's a safety they have committed. They have a couple of guys who have already committed for the class of 24. It's just slipping off the top of my head. But that's not important because UCLA has also thrown out another offer to a quarterback. They have offered 5 quarterbacks in the class of 24. I'm taking a look at the Bruin Report Online, who dropped their article earlier today. None other than Zach Wilson's younger brother, Isaac Wilson, who in the scouting report that's listed on this article was saying he can be a potential multi-year starter at an elite Power 5 level, a 4-star product out of Draper, Utah, second-rated quarterback in the state of Utah, top 15 quarterback potentially across the country. He's a big play quarterback, has a quick release, steady with silent mechanics, and is generally able to throw the ball on the run. You know, I think the big thing is for UCLA, is this really the right fit if Dante Moore is your starting quarterback of the future, considering Wilson, if he came, would possibly have to sit for a couple of years before he sat, before he played. if Dante Moore is the starter of the future for the Bruins.
Zach, I'm with you right there. I think that that's the right way to approach this. Dante Moore is that guy that he's coming into this next season expecting, as a freshman to maybe have some serious minutes, and he's competing with Garbers and Colin Schlieb. But I know that those two guys might move on through the transfer portal if they're not starting this year, So it is already a battle at quarterback, and that could get even more congested with Isaac Wilson. If you look at his numbers this last year, they weren't terrific. I'm sure he's ready to take a step forward in his last year, before college. They weren't terrific numbers, though. And one of the things that
you're saying 3,700 yards and 40 touchdowns in 14 games isn't terrific?
Maybe I was looking at the wrong Isaac Wilson. Maybe. You have me, Z. You have me, Z. I appreciate you keeping me in check.
I was going to say, he rushed for 700 yards. He ran.
I was looking at his sophomore numbers. That's on me. I was going to say, that's on me. Yeah. I take full responsibility. Thank you for keeping me in check.
I mean, the big thing though is, sometimes these high school numbers can be tough to track. But according to this article, he threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns in 14 games, led his team to the 6A state title game, and ran for nearly 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he's got that ability to be a little bit of a dual threat, has some good zip, good arm action, again, with more of this scouting report. The question is, UCLA's already offered 4 other quarterbacks. 3 of them have committed. Florida commit DJ Lagaway. You've got Ole Miss commit Demond Williams. And then you got Julian Sayin, who's committed to Alabama. The big one left, though, Elijah Brown, coming out of Mater Dei. He is uncommitted. So those are 2 guys that are still yet to make a decision. Elijah Brown, I think, would be a good get for UCLA. Wilson, I don't think, would be a bad add for UCLA. It's just a matter of where they're at in this transition to the Big Ten. It seems like, we're going to say this again, if Dante Moore is the quarterback of the future, who's going to want to sit up to 2 years, even with a red shirt and a burnt playing year, to wait those extra years in this day and age to play as a starting quarterback? Most kids don't really want to do that, in my perspective.
Yeah, and I think he might want to stay a little closer to home, too. That's the thing with these Utah kids. They really like being in that area. He got offered by Utah already, and I wouldn't be surprised if he stays around that close to home area.
I guess the biggest thing is, how long does Kyle Whittingham have left to coach? And I know Utah's won back-to-back Pac-12s, but is that where he wants to go, depending on the day and age of college football realignment? But still, the Bruins have sent out, some offers. They're hitting the recruiting trail. Even Danton Lynn, in his media availability last week, says, I'm going out recruiting, kind of for the first time, getting to meet these people in person defensively. So the Bruins are making things happen in the class of 24. They get an offensive tackle who looks to be pretty good, another year of high school, and they continue to throw out offers to build that quarterback room, which potentially could be decimated by NFL draft, transfers, or even graduation in the next year, depending on who wins the starting job this season. That's how much the spring camp into fall camp can affect years to come based on who wins this starting quarterback job.
Yeah. So I think it's Dante Moore's job right now, and it doesn't really make sense for Isaac Wilson to make that play over here. But he could be a really good get, and give it a couple of years if he's able to develop. If he is patient, he could be the quarterback of the future. I would say hide your friends' moms, but aside from that, could be a good get.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you went there. Oh my goodness. Anyways, speaking of development and quarterbacks of the future, UCLA's Dorian Thompson-Robinson and many other collegiate quarterbacks are looking to be a different NFL team's quarterback of the future. Locked On has made an NFL mock draft special. It's bigger than ever. For all 32 teams' first picks are mock draft. They have a mock draft in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience for Locked On NFL Draft. It's on YouTube. You can check out. We've seen even on Twitter, Locked On people have been debating, is Zach Charbonnet a 10th ranked running back or a 3rd ranked running back? If he's lower than number 3 on your list, I just think you're crazy. So I think, you got to go check it out and go give some people a piece of their own medicine and tell them, hey, Zach Charbonnet should be a high-level drafted running back. Go check out Locked On's NFL mock draft coverage here. And also, hey, we're getting to the nitty-gritty of the baseball season, playoff season, Stanley Cup, NBA, everything in between. FanDuel right now is America's #1 sportsbook. New customers can step up to the plate and get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon to get your no sweat first bet. FanDuel is an official partner of Major League Baseball and sports betting partner with us here at Locked On. Just go make every moment more. Cruising on in the second segment of Locked On UCLA, Zach alongside Max. We're going to go to the number one team in the country. There's a couple of teams you could talk about being the number one team in the country or battling for it, but we're talking about the team who in the NCAA tournament and in the number one seed in their conference tournament has proven they are the best in the country at this moment. We are talking UCLA men's volleyball as they look to win a national championship this year. Max, you've got more on them.
Yeah, this UCLA volleyball team is really stacked, top to bottom, and they've been in the 2 spot just about all season long, 28-2, I believe, 29-2, excuse me. And they just swept through all of MPSF play and all of the MPSF tournament. Now, to give you an idea of the volleyball landscape, there are 2 main conferences that really dominate everybody else, the Big West and the MPSF. And UCLA is far and away the best team in this MPSF that has about 3, 4, or even 5 of the top 15 teams in the country. So they just blew over opponents, and now they had that bye heading into the NCAA tournament. It looks like the first team that they'll play will either be GCU, whom they have beaten thrice this season, or Long Beach State. And if it's me, I would really want to play GCU. But that Long Beach State team, they're terrific. Not a great matchup, for anybody out there. So if you're UCLA, you got to be cheering for GCU in that opening round matchup.
What's interesting to me is that UCLA got the 1 seed. Hawaii's won 11 in a row. I know they beat UCLA earlier this year in their own court. They then got swept by Long Beach at home, which is a very surprising, shocking loss. Hawaii is also 28-29-2. I wonder what's the reason, considering the head-to-head matchup, that UCLA is able to leapfrog them and get the 1 seed overall.
Well, I think it has to do with the strength of schedule and the RPI. That plays into it a lot. And UCLA has been atop the RPI just about all season long. Hawaii's strength of schedule comes into question. Both of these teams are top of the class. It's that simple. And this is a sport where the top, 4 or 5 teams are well above everybody else. So in my opinion, it comes down to 4 teams who can compete for that national title, and UCLA is right there with the best of them. It's UCLA, Hawaii, Penn State as a dark horse, and Long Beach State. And I think more than anything else, it's your draw. It's who you come up and play against. And UCLA right now will have to play in the second round if Long Beach State wins. A really tough beach team that consistently has shown over the last 4 or 5 years how good of a program it is. But the Bruins just won its first MPSF title, first conference title since 2006, and they swept through conference play. They can win this NCAA title. They have all of the pieces. They're clicking at the right time. That loss against Hawaii, that was at Stan Sheriff Center in a packed 10,000 arena. I mean, this is a game that's on the road at George Mason in Virginia. You're not going to get the same crowd from Hawaii, so it's not going to feel like home court advantage if you do meet up with that Hawaii team.
What's funny, though, is if it was at Pauley Pavilion like it was last year, Hawaii would have a better chance because they might fill it up more than UCLA would. But with it being in the East Coast, it might be even better if you're going to play out against in George Mason.
Yeah, I'm with you. And one of the things that I just like so much about this UCLA team, they're good on both sides of the ball, but their efficiency is just it's knockout. So in the semifinal against GCU, and by the way, GCU, a top 5 team in the country, they out-hit GCU 456 to 235, over 400 in each of those sets, 1 and 3. Then similar story against Stanford, a top 10 team, about number 7, 8, 9 in the country, out-hit them 373 to 173. Their blocking is good. Their hitting is good. Andrew Rowan is running a heck of an offense, and he can serve the ball up well. And they're just clicking at the right time. I mean, if anybody's going to stop the Bruins, I think it would be Hawaii. But I would say that UCLA has to look at the upcoming matchup with Long Beach as a serious detriment. If the Beach can get going, they got to be able to stop a terrific block in the middle for the Beach, one of the best blocking teams in the country. So that's going to be a great matchup, assuming that the Beach moves on and beats GCU.
UCLA does not play until May 4th. That's the big thing about this end of volleyball season. You play an early conference tournament, and then everybody's got like a week plus, over a week, to either prepare themselves, to get ready, fly across the country. For Hawaii, it's like flying across the world, basically, just to get to the West Coast and then over to the East Coast. They'll play the winner of Long Beach State and Grand Canyon. They won't know who wins that matchup until May 2nd, and the Bruins won't play until 2 p.m. Pacific on May 4th. And if they win, they play 2 days later at 2 p.m. Pacific in the national championship. We expect it to be Hawaii, but Hawaii has to beat either Penn State or Ohio State or King from Tennessee. Those are all different schools that could very well compete, but Hawaii just seems like the team that is ready to meet in UCLA in the final.
And it could be Penn State too, because Penn State has already beaten Hawaii this season. So, that's one of the couple of losses for Hawaii, and Ohio State has won 11 straight. Any of these teams could be there, but I think that UCLA has the jump on them.
Yeah, it seems UCLA, Hawaii, it seems chalk. We don't want to say chalk, but it does seem like that's the way it's going to go. And UCLA and the Bows could be a very entertaining final. It just sucks it's not on the West Coast, but maybe that's for the best. Let's be honest. Hawaii fans will and would travel to UCLA and definitely make their voices louder than the Bruins fans. I would make that. I know that to be true. In the meantime, we think the number one team in the country can hold on, but we won't know that for another week and a half. So that's all we got to update. But another team that's competing to be the number one team in the country, UCLA Softball, is getting things cooking at the right time. Another sweep. Max, you're on the call for UCLA softball games this weekend. What was it like? What's the team like? And who's truly dominating for the Bruins as of now? Because they're getting some national exposure as we creep into May, and softball tournament season is just around the corner.
Well, 16 straight wins for the Bruins after this weekend. Another sweep over ASU. And a couple of the games, the score was closer than how it felt, and that last game, it felt like dominance. Although it was a 4-1 game, Megan Faramo was just on her game the whole time. She leaves the country and wins with 24. She was dealing up until the 7th. She had gone through a scoreless. It was a shutout, one-hit performance, and she had dealt 12 strikeouts. She's up to 200 Ks on the year. She's one of the best pitchers in the nation. Her and Maya Brady each named to the USA Softball Player of the Year watch list. And what I like most about this team is the internal competition between them to continue to battle up and down the lineup for who's better, right? So coming into this weekend, Maya Brady led all players in this lineup in RBI. Megan Grant said no thank you. She led off this whole weekend, starting lineup in the one spot. And she just dominated. She went 6 for 8 over the first 2 games with 6 RBI. She went 4 for 4 in game 1 with four runs driven in. She hit a home run, fell just a double shy of the cycle. In my opinion, she's the best freshman in the country. And this UCLA team looks really, really good. One caveat is they lost Charlize Palacios, the catcher behind the plate, a 2-time Pac-12, all Pac-12 selection. She's out indefinitely with left hand injury. That's her catching hand. Curious to see where that takes this team.
Yeah, it sucks to lose a catcher. That's a key prime position in the sport, whatever it is. Catchers are huge because if you have an offensive catcher, someone who can swing the bat really well, that just adds so much depth to your lineup. But the health of catchers overall, they just take a beating all season long. And UCLA, here they are dominating. We're like, oh, they're kind of losing some early Pac-12 games. No, now they're 43-4, and they have one Pac-12 weekend series left, Pac-12 tournament left in a couple of weeks in the middle of May, and then all of a sudden it's tournament time. Does this team look primed and ready to make a run in the tournament, potentially without Charlize Palacios?
Heading into this weekend, I would say absolutely. Now it's a little bit more up in the air. Of course, they're going to make a run. Of course, they're one of the top 3 to 5 teams in the country, regardless of Palacios, because of how much depth they have. And you look at the bottom of the lineup, it's been terrific. 7, 8, 9 over the last, roughly 12 games is hitting over 370. So that in its own right can give you an idea of how deep this team is. That said, though, at catcher, Palacios is a 350 batter. She's hit roughly 8 to 10 home runs this season. She's driven in roughly 35 runs. So that's something that you're going to miss. And not to mention, all the pitchers are really comfortable throwing to her behind the plate. But Alyssa Garcia did a nice job stepping in halfway through game 2 and finishing off game 3. And I would expect her to be the catcher moving forward without Palacios, seeing that she was immediately the one that got called on. But she's just about a 206 hitter this season. So maybe with more PT, with more consistent time in the lineup, you could see her average bump up. That's what I would actually expect. She put some good pieces on the ball, just got a little unlucky on where they felt. A little BABIP, if you will, batting average for balls in play. But I think that Garcia has a higher ceiling than expected. This team has lost a couple of key pieces. Seneca Curo should have been the everyday shortstop. She re-aggravated a shoulder injury about 9 games into the season, and she's out for the year. So that now has Maya Brady at short. Maya Brady is, with a lack of a better way to say it, a liability at shortstop on the defensive side. But her bat makes her one of the best players in the country. And now with Palacios out, Garcia is a really good defensive shortstop, but her bat makes her a little bit of a liability in this lineup. And that's not a spot in the lineup that you can just insert a good hitter, because you need a catcher. You need a catcher, and it's a very specific position. So it's up in the air. They're going to make a run. It's just a question of how far they can go with a couple of injuries that might last the rest of the season.
Yeah, you need players to have big swings in big moments and come up clutch, because UCLA, man, you're losing Palacios, 10 home runs. That's tied for 3rd on the team. Garcia hasn't hit one this year, 6 RBIs. That's just the struggle when you deal with late season injuries. It sucks that Curo's out. It hurts that Palacios is out. You hope that they can recover okay, especially in Palacios' case, if her season could still be saved. But at this stage in the game, you've got 2-3 weeks until the NCAA tournament. I guess UCLA, we expect, this is just flat out what we're thinking. I guess you can speak for yourself, Max, but UCLA can get through those first 2 weekends of the NCAA tournament just fine. So that can save them until Oklahoma City. But remember, in Oklahoma City, it's not as spaced out necessarily as the College World Series is, the Men's College World Series. So there's a lot of games condensed in one another, and then you need your best players to get big hits against Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, whoever's in that Women's College World Series.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And one thing that's different this year is that in the Pac-12 softball tournament, that it'll be the first one ever. Let me read to you what each SID is putting out about this softball tournament. Arizona's Hildebrand Stadium will serve as the host site for the inaugural Pac-12 softball tournament, set to make its debut May 10th through 13th. It'll be a play-in game between the 8th and 9th seeds, and then they'll head to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and championships contested in the following 3 days. The winner of the Pac-12 tournament will receive an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. It's the first year that they're doing something like this. I actually like it to try and deliver, a little bit of a boost heading into that tournament. But UCLA has ran away with this conference, and it just gives an opportunity for one more team maybe to win a bid. A team can be too hot heading into postseason play. And we saw that with a team like maybe Texas or Kansas or Alabama. You get a little too hot and, you haven't lost in a while. And then you get into postseason play and you can't win consistent. So I like this Pac-12 softball tournament, and it just kind of changes the layout for what to expect for softball in the postseason.
And for UCLA, it's still 3 weeks generally until the postseason, until the NCAA tournament. Guess some people might qualify the conference tournament as a postseason. So for UCLA, they still got to play a few weeks. Hope Palacios heals up, and keep making sure that Faremo is Megantron, right? Just straight up strikeout, just as she is, and make sure the pitchers in the circle are dominant. There's Max. He called all 3 games this weekend at Easton Stadium. Watched the sweep of the Sun Devils. Watched very long softball games, but very good action being played. In the meantime, that is Locked On UCLA. You've got to become an everyday listener, because tomorrow I'm talking hoops. Wednesday, we might talk more football and hoops. And hey, UCLA baseball, that was a downer. I got to talk about it tomorrow and lay into those Bruins. You're going to want to be an everyday listener of the Locked On UCLA podcast, because baseball's coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk basketball because the NBA draft declaration deadline has come and gone. Who could come back? We'll discuss that even more tomorrow on the Locked On UCLA podcast. And stay tuned for all the news up throughout the rest of the week. This has been Locked On UCLA for Max Kelton. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Download wherever you can get this podcast audio-wise. Subscribe on YouTube, comment, like, follow at Locked On Bruins. This has been Locked On UCLA. UCLA fans, get your hands in the air. 8 clap time, baby. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.